From weird hidden mods to real-world crimes, here are the dark and disturbing scenes, encounters, mysteries, and events connected to GTA, starting with Level 1, Surface Level, Hot Coffee Mod. In 2004, Rockstar Games released Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. At the center of the story is Carl C.J. Johnson, a former gang member returning home to Los Santos after years away. The setting was 1990s Los Angeles, and you played as Carl C.J. Johnson navigating gang wars and corrupt cops.
Catch you later, homeboys.
Oh, Carl, try not to kill any more respected police officers.
Rockstar already knew the game was pushing boundaries long before the hot coffee controversy happened. San Andreas was already controversial even before hot coffee entered the picture. The game already had gang violence, corrupt cops, strip clubs, and plenty of stuff politicians hated back then. Politicians and parent groups were already accusing Rockstar of pushing boundaries too far. But despite all that, the game still received an M rating from the ESRB, making it suitable for only players 17 and older. In 2005, a modder, who was a Dutch programmer named Patrick Wildenborg, was digging through the PC version's files and discovered something strange hidden deep inside the game's code. Wildenborg was not originally trying to expose a gaming scandal. Like many modders at the time, he'd been digging through San Andreas' files while preparing modifications for the PC version, examining the earlier PlayStation 2 release out of curiosity to see what hidden or unfinished content Rockstar may have left behind. But while doing so, he discovered the explicitly labeled animation files and realized they were not leftovers but disabled content that remained in the game's code. Normally in San Andreas, if you finished a successful date, CJ would walk into the house while the camera stayed outside. The player then hears a vague dialogue as the screen fades to black, and that's it. Nothing explicit is shown, but the implication is obvious. Hot Coffee changed that completely. The name itself came from an in-game mechanic where CJ could take a girlfriend home for coffee and then say the line, "Want to come in for some coffee?" A euphemism the game constantly winked at but never actually showed on screen.
You want to come in for a coffee?
Of course, baby girl.
The actual content had been cut before release, or so Rockstar claimed. The problem was that they hadn't actually cut it, they'd just hidden it. Every copy of San Andreas shipped with that content sitting inside the files, locked behind a single line of code. In July 2005, Wildenborg released the PC mod that unlocked the hidden content almost instantly. Suddenly, the content that Rockstar had locked away was playable by anyone who downloaded a free file off the internet, conveniently allowing players to directly control erotic interactions between CJ and his girlfriends inside the house. Crude animated scenes played on screen with button prompts appearing during the encounter. The models were partially clothed, and the animations were awkward and looked unfinished. The entire thing looked more bizarre than realistic, but that did not matter anymore. Within days, it was everywhere, and everyone was talking about it on every social platform. A user on Reddit even explained the scandal, saying, "The textures and models were already in-game, buried within the files," while Rockstar told the ESRB that their game contained no traces of nudity or any AO Plus content. All the mod did was unlock them. As far as I'm aware, it was something as simple as editing a couple of flags. News stations treated it like a national scandal. Parent groups accused Rockstar of secretly hiding explicit material inside games marketed to teenagers. Among the loudest critics was Hillary Clinton, then a US senator, who publicly condemned the hidden content and called for stronger oversight of video game sales to minors. She called for a Federal Trade Commission investigation, specifically describing the material as a hidden layer of explicit and degrading content. The lawsuits followed. A class action was filed on behalf of consumers who felt they'd been sold a product under a false rating. Florence Cohen, an 85-year-old grandmother from New York who had bought the game for her grandson, became the unlikely face of the lawsuit. The lawsuit eventually led to a settlement fund worth up to $20 million for affected buyers. Soon, federal investigators got involved. The FTC opened an inquiry into whether Rockstar had intentionally deceived the ESRB itself by submitting a cleaner version of the game for review of the concealed content they knew existed. At the center of the outrage, one major question persisted. Did Rockstar intentionally hide explicit content inside the game while still securing an M rating? Of course, Rockstar initially defended itself. It could only be accessed through unauthorized modifications. But investigators soon discovered that modders did not create the content. The animations and scripts were already present in the official retail discs shipped to millions of players. The mod merely unlocked what was already there. The ESRB concluded that Rockstar had failed to disclose the hidden material during the ratings process fully. As punishment, San Andreas had its rating temporarily changed from mature to adults only, and at the time, an adults only rating was basically a commercial death sentence because most major retailers and console companies wanted nothing to do with AO-rated games. Major retailers like Walmart, Target, and Best Buy immediately began pulling copies from shelves. Console manufacturers strongly discouraged AO games in their platforms. Entire marketing campaigns collapsed overnight. Take-Two's stock dropped. Rockstar was forced to halt production of the original version and release a new edition of San Andreas with the hidden files completely removed. Retailers returned hundreds of thousands of copies. The company recalled the existing PC version and issued a patch edition with the content fully removed. Rockstar made a comment, acknowledging the mod but insisting the content had been removed during development. Rockstar's official statement in the matter reads, "So far we have learned that the hot coffee modification is the work of a determined group of hackers who have gone to significant trouble to alter scenes in the official version of the game. In violation of the software user agreement, hackers created the hot coffee modification by disassembling and then combining, recompiling and altering the game's source code. They added that the content could only be accessed through extensive modification and reverse engineering of the game's code. However, that quickly turned into a claim that became increasingly difficult to defend when console versions were examined. The locked content was focused on discs that had no mod support. For many people outside gaming, Hot Coffee confirmed every fear they already had about the medium. News broadcasts described games as interactive simulators. Commentators argued the industry could no longer regulate itself. The Hot Coffee scandal had handed ammunition to every politician who had ever wanted to regulate the games industry, and for a moment, it looked like they might actually succeed. Congressional hearings were held, industry self-regulation was questioned at the federal level. What Rockstar tried to bury didn't stay buried, but the franchise survived it. San Andreas eventually became a classic regardless. The controversy also put Rockstar co-founder Dan Houser directly under the spotlight. The scandal left a permanent mark on how games are rated and how much the public actually trusts the people making the games they hand to their children. While the debate about the violence and lustful graphic content went on, the controversy transitioned into something more than that. It became about whether Rockstar had intentionally hidden explicit content from regulators and parents alike. Hot Coffee was never just about coffee. The Epsilon Program. The Epsilon Program was a cult group that serves as a functional faith, also known as the Kiflam religion. The program first appeared in San Andreas through a strange in-game website that players could stumble across while exploring GTA's hidden lore. However, unlike Hot Coffee, Rockstar built this one deliberately, designed from the ground up to serve as a parody of Scientology and celebrity spiritualism in the real world. For reference, this is what the Epsilon building looks like. The cult is led by Chris Vermage, a calm but manipulative figure who sells followers and bizarre spiritual ideas like trees talk, and 5 is the number of truth. Epsilonists walk around Los Santos in bright blue robes repeating strange mantras, while the organization constantly pressures members to spend more money chasing enlightenment.
Oh, immortal. Hello, Zondar. Are you ready?
For what?
It is today and the tract can be written.
Wait. I can't believe that you got wrapped up in this bullshit. You seem like a nice girl.
Objectionable antitheses are worse than idiots on a sinking ship. The literature makes that very clear.
Yeah, well, does the literature make clear that you need help?
I have help. I know the truth. If you want to know me, agree to pay your dues and wear pale blue attire for the next 10 days. You should get the attire off the website. It's very reasonable, right?
What?
Are you even capable of listening, Zondar? Kiflam.
The organization has an in-game website that reads more like a bizarre self-help scam than an actual religion. Inside the website's Welcome to the Epsilon Program page, the cult greets visitors with confusing spiritual rhetoric like, do you want to be happy and free from thoughts, or continue dying in ignorance without knowing your true eternal self? You are controlled by lots of powerful forces you do not understand. In GTA 5, the player experiences the cult directly through Michael DeSanta, a retired criminal living a miserable suburban life in Los Santos who makes contact with the program mid-game and is immediately pulled into the circle by Chris Vermage's calm, unhurried instructions. The demand starts small, but before long, the cult is asking Michael for thousands of dollars at a time while constantly promising that enlightenment is just around the corner. The game gives you nothing to indicate whether any of it means anything, except a voice in the phone telling you that you're growing spiritually and that Kiflam is pleased. All the thousands of dollars disappear into the organization under the promise of enlightenment. What follows is one of the most hostile optional quest lines ever put inside a mainstream video game, as the cult orders Michael to abandon his old lifestyle, wear the ceremonial robes, wander the Alamo Sea Desert for days on foot, and obey increasingly humiliating instructions without question. At one point, they send him alone through the wilderness under the scorching sun, while the program delivers manipulative messages dressed up as spiritual wisdom. What makes the Epsilon program unsettling is how the escalating financial demands, the isolation tasks, the uniforms, and the repetitive affirmations start feeling way too similar to how real cults actually operate.
Mom, Kiflam, 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 Kiflam.
In the final mission, Michael finally gets a choice. He can stay loyal to Chris Formage and hand over the money, earning nothing but a rusty tractor, or betray the cult completely and steal the $2.1 million for himself. It becomes the moment where the game finally admits the whole thing was always a scam.
You fucking traitor! After all we've done for you, you can consider your enlightenment revoked, you son of a bitch!
And you can consider this my refund.
Don't you realize?
At this point, most of the controversy still came from content Rockstar intentionally created, whether it was hidden sexual material or a parody called built to manipulate desperate people. But some of the strangest parts of Grand Theft Auto history were never fully released at all, which we'll be diving into in the next level of the iceberg. Level 2. Mildly Dark. The Darkle Cut content. Grand Theft Auto 3 launched in 2001, and it drops the player into Liberty City, a grim version of New York filled with gangs, corruption, and random violence. You play as Claude, a silent protagonist betrayed by his girlfriend, Catalina, during a bank robbery and left for dead. However, Liberty City, as players eventually received it, was not the Liberty City Rockstar originally designed, and one of the biggest things removed before release was a character named Darkle, which would later become one of the most debated pieces of cut content in the franchise's history. Darkle was conceived as a hobo-like figure living in the margins of Liberty City, a homeless extremist who planned to use Claude to spread chaos and destruction across Liberty City. Darkle is referenced directly in GTA 3's original game manual, listed alongside the other mission-giving characters that populated Liberty City, which means he was far enough along in development to make it into official printed documentation before being cut entirely from the final release. What exactly happened to Darkle and his missions was never fully confirmed by Rockstar, though the timing of his removal is significant. GTA 3 was launched in October 22, 2001, just 6 weeks after the 9/11 attacks in New York City, and coincidentally, Liberty City itself was heavily inspired by New York, so in response to the climate of that moment, they made a series of documented last-minute changes to the game, removing a mission that involved shooting down a plane and toning down content that suddenly felt too close to the painful reality many were dealing with. Years later, rumors about Darkle exploded across GTA forums, and one rumor focused on the mission, I Scream, You Scream, after a GTA forums user claimed they found traces of a deleted Darkle mission hidden in the PS2 files. The mission included blowing up a school bus. In the final version of the game, Claude uses a rigged ice cream truck to lure members of the Forelli crime family before detonating the vehicle in a crowded parking lot. But as the Darkle myth spread across forums, some players became convinced the mission was originally far darker. According to the rumor, the mission was once called Toys for Boys and involved Claude stealing an explosive-filled ice cream truck before driving it into a school bus carrying children. The theory became even more believable to players because early GTA 3 builds reportedly contained unused school buses, references to children, and cut pedestrian content hidden inside the files. Players pointed to the absence of children in school buses in the final game as circumstantial evidence that the content had been scrubbed deliberately. Over time, the story evolved into one of the most infamous urban legends in Grand Theft Auto history. Grand Theft Auto's dark history reaches a point where it feels less like an internet curiosity and more like unsettling content, because as we dive further into the iceberg, the violence surrounding the franchise begins to parody a more mysterious but uncomfortable reality. Level 3. Moderately Dark. Nico's War Crimes Dialogue. GTA 4. In Grand Theft Auto 4, you play as Nico Bellic, an immigrant from Eastern Europe who arrives in Liberty City in a boat after being lured there by his cousin Roman's exaggerated promises of mansions and sports cars.
I've been saying ever since I started sending you emails, we're going to be on top. Fast cars, jacuzzis, hot women. We're going to have everything we could ever dream of. I can feel it. The cousin's Bellic, on top of the world.
Only to discover that the reality is a cramped apartment above a taxi depot and a mountain of debt. Throughout GTA 4, scattered conversations slowly reveal pieces of Nico's past before Liberty City, especially his experiences during the Yugoslav wars.
When the war came, I did bad things. And after the war, I thought nothing of doing bad things. I killed people, smuggled people, sold people.
And you don't worry about your soul?
The Yugoslav Wars was a series of devastating armed conflicts that tore through the former Yugoslavia during the 1990s, producing some of the worst atrocities seen on European soil since the Second World War, including ethnic cleansing and mass executions.
The war war? Actually, I wish to forget some of the things that happened to me here in Liberty City as well. I was good once. I was a normal kid who got sucked into a war he didn't believe in, and forced to watch his friends die, forced to do things he did not want to do in order to survive. If I can get pulled into this world, I can pull myself out. I've tried to make the right choices.
In a dialogue with Roman, Nico explains that during the war, there were 15 of them sent to ambush an enemy squad responsible for the death of many innocent civilians. However, someone inside the group had sold them out for money before the operation began. The ambush turned into a massacre that left 12 of his comrades dead, while only 3 men survived, including Nico himself.
When I was in the army, we were going on a mission to ambush a squad would kill a lot of innocent people. They were our enemies, but we never did it. There were 15 of us, all boys from the village. But one of us betrayed the group. It was a setup. For money. 12 people died. 3 escaped. I know the traitor was not me. So for 10 years, I've been searching for the other 2.
Nico had spent nearly 10 years looking for the traitor, believing the betrayal came from Florian Kravik or Darko Breivik, who were the remaining 2 survivors in the massacre. Later in the story, it is revealed that Florian is innocent and Darko was the one who had betrayed them. In a cutscene where Darko is abducted by United Liberty paper agents and smuggled into Liberty City, he is confronted by Nico, and he casually confesses that he sold out the entire unit for just $1,000, showing almost no remorse for the massacre that got 12 of his comrades killed.
Strange choices! How much? 1,000.
You killed my friends for $1,000.
How much do you charge to kill someone?
You ruined me, you fuck!
During a conversation with Liliana Faustin, the wife of Liberty City mob boss Mikhail Faustin, who also becomes one of Nico's first employers after arriving in the city, she questions Nico and how he became so comfortable with violence, asking if he doesn't worry about his soul. Nico explains the war destroyed his innocence and made him numb to violence. He recalls seeing the bodies of 50 children that were killed during the conflict laid out in rows, saying to her,
After you walk into a village and you see 50 children all sitting neatly in a row against the church wall, each with their throats cut and their hands chopped off, you realize that the creature that could do this doesn't have a soul.
Moments like this often remind the players that Nico comes from something much darker than organized crime. Even the revenge storyline involving the betrayal of his military unit offers very little closure once players finally confront the person responsible. Because underneath it all, GTA 4 is really the story of a man trying to outrun trauma in a city filled with people doing the same thing. Marty Chonks and the Have a Heart mission. Grand Theft Auto 3 is a game built around the idea that Liberty City will use anyone willing to be used, and most of the characters handing Claude missions across the game's 3 boroughs understand the transaction clearly. But Marty Chonks operates in another level of depravity from almost everyone else in the game. Marty Chonks is the owner of the Bitchin' Dog Food Factory in Portland Harbor, and on the surface, he appears as a small-time operator running a legitimate enterprise. Across the mission chain, Marty repeatedly sends Claude to abduct people and bring them back to the factory, where it is implied that they are killed and apparently processed into dog food. The missions themselves are hidden away from the normal flow of GTA 3. Instead, the player has to discover a ringing payphone near Joey Leone's garage in Portland, where Marty Chonks delivers his instructions anonymously to Claude through a series of increasingly disturbing calls. He constantly complains about people betraying him, ruining his life, stealing from him, or disrespecting him, and almost every mission begins with him angrily ranting through a payphone with Claude silently listening.
The name's Chonks, Marty Chonks. I run the Bitchin' Dog Food Factory around the corner. I got money troubles, but hey, who doesn't, right?
The mission chain consists of 4 jobs: the crook, the thieves, the wife, her lover. In the first mission, the crook, Marty asks Claude to collect his corrupt bank manager, blaming him for financial problems that damaged his business.
I'm meeting my bank manager later. He's a crooked bastard that keeps bumping up the loan repayment so he can cut a slice. Take my car, pick him up, and bring him back here. I got a little surprise
Claude kidnaps the man from the bank in Chinatown and brings him to the factory. Then he goes to destroy the vehicle afterward to remove any trace of what happened. The mission ends without ever directly showing the victim's fate, but it is hinted at that they were killed and then turned into processed dog food. In the second mission, The Thieves, Marty orders Claude to track down 2 burglars who supposedly robbed his apartment.
I hired some thieves to break into my apartment and steal some stuff so I could claim on the insurance, as you do. The thieving bastards are threatening to tell the insurance company if I don't give them a cut. Can you believe it? I left the car inside the factory gates. Use it to go pick them up from their turf in the red light district. Then bring them back to the factory so I can make them see Marty's point of view.
Once again, both men are delivered to the factory, and the mission ends with destroying the evidence. In the third mission, The Wife, Marty reveals to Claude that his business is failing and that he plans to solve his financial problems by cashing in his wife's insurance policy after discovering her affair. Claude is then sent to collect her outside Classic Nails and bring her back to the factory, where it is implied that she meets the same fate as Marty's previous victims.
The business is gonna go under unless I get a hold of some serious cash soon. My wife has an insurance policy, and all she's ever been to me is a hole in my pocket. I've left the car in the usual place. Go and pick up my wife from Classic Nails and bring her back to the factory.
In the final mission, her lover, Claude kidnaps Carlos, the man Marty's wife had been seeing behind his back, and a man Marty also owed money to.
Damn, I'm in trouble. Turns out my wife was seeing some guy I owe money to. He's got real angry, and he's looking for payback. I've agreed to see him. He thinks I'm gonna pay him off, but my guess is...
It is the first time Marty physically appears in the game instead of remaining only a voice in the phone, but this time, the situation collapses before Marty can finish the job. Carlos turns on him and kills Marty with a shotgun, abruptly ending the entire mission chain.
Marty, you had your chance, but now I'm taking over the business. All right.
Marty Chonks was officially listed as deceased in October 2001. The entire mission chain is also a parody of the 1989 film. The cook, the thief, his wife, and her lover, where betrayal, violence, and revenge spiral inside a crime-controlled restaurant. The industrial horror of Marty Chonks processing his victims into dog food, even though it was only alluded to rather than explicitly stated in the game, transformed the bizarre side character into one of the most disturbing figures in early Grand Theft Auto. Up to this point, most of the horror surrounding Grand Theft Auto still comes from the storylines and cut content in the games. But the next levels are different, because the danger no longer stays inside Liberty City or Los Santos. The deeper the franchise moved into online spaces, the more some of the players themselves began turning the game itself into something far darker. Level 4. Dark. Ned Luke swatting incidents. Grand Theft Auto V was released in 2013, and it introduced players to 3 protagonists, including Michael DeSanta, voiced and performed the actor Ned Luke. Ned Luke is a veteran actor who had spent decades working across television, film, and theater before landing the role that would define his public profile entirely. But the same visibility that made him a target, and what followed over the years after GTA 4's release, was a campaign of harassment that eventually turned into something with real physical consequences at his front door. Luke had remained active in the community long after the game's release, live streaming GTA gameplay and interacting with fans online. Over time, Ned Luke became the target of repeated swatting incidents after his personal information and home address were leaked online. Swatting is when someone calls in a fake emergency report to send armed police to another person's house. When Luke's address was leaked online, many fans began blaming Rockstar Games for not doing enough to protect the actors associated with Grand Theft Auto V. However, Luke publicly defended Rockstar, pushing back against claims that the studio was responsible for what happened. He commented on the issue, saying, "Y'all jumping to some large-ass conclusions. This had nothing to do with Rockstar. These assholes leaked my private info years ago and have been doing this shit since." Once Luke's personal information spread online, heavily armed police started showing up at his apartment, often while Luke was in the middle of streaming GTA 5 content to his own audience. On November 23, 2023, during a Thanksgiving livestream, the actor was swatted live while streaming the game to his thousands of viewers online. Midway through the broadcast, Luke suddenly received a phone call warning him that police had been dispatched to his home following a fake emergency report. Moments later, the tone of the stream shifted completely as he abruptly ended the broadcast, telling viewers, "I gotta go. Now these assholes have swatted my house."
Alright, I'll be out there. Alright, I gotta go. Now these assholes have swatted my house, so I've gotta go.
Luke had claimed at the time that this was already his 6th swatting incident, meaning he'd been targeted since before 2023. A month after the sixth swatting incident, Luke was swatted again, making the incident happen twice in 2 months. The eighth incident occurred again on Christmas week, December 23, 2025, during a GTA Online livestream with Rob Wythoff, who is the voice of John Marston in Red Dead Redemption. About 30 to 35 minutes into the livestream, 2 police officers entered Luke's home. But after 8 swatting incidents in about 2 years, responding officers have become familiar with Luke.
I should have learned
Get swatted again.
2 years.
Oh my god. What's up, guys?
How you doing?
Hang on a second, Rob. Hang on. You guys say Merry Christmas to my friends.
Merry Christmas.
How you doing? Alright.
On December 27, Ned Luke later posted on Instagram, claiming that at least one person allegedly connected to the swatting incidents was now facing federal charges and was expected to appear in court in January 2026 over their reported involvement. Luke wrote on Instagram, "F around and find out. Many more names discovered and provided." Many members of the GTA community showed support, with one of them commenting under Luke's post on X, saying this, "Glad you and your family are okay, Ned. These things can go wrong so easily and so fast. I hope they throw the book at all the low-life scum who find swatting amusing." By the late 2010s and early 2020s, swatting itself had become so widespread that the FBI began treating many cases as federal crimes, particularly when they crossed state lines or involved organized harassment campaigns. Ned Luke continued to engage with the GTA community despite the incidents, but the fact that doing so required him to accept a baseline level of risk that no public figure should have to deal with shows how dangerous online fan communities can become once harassment stops feeling like a joke. Angry Planes and simple no-clip malware mods. 2015. Grand Theft Auto V was released on PC in 2015, and the game's modding community rapidly exploded almost immediately afterwards, because the PC release opened the game's files to the same kind of creative changes that led to many years of amazing work in earlier GTA games. For many players, modding quickly became one of the biggest reasons to own the PC version of GTA V in the first place. GTA V mods became central hubs for the community, and they explained how the Angry Planes mod was downloaded and run by thousands of people on GTA5mods.com and various other community mod hosting sites and forums. They added that it was even featured in Kotaku and PC Gamer. 2 GTA mods, Angry Planes and Simple No Clip, quickly became massively popular within the community. Angry Planes modified the game's aircraft AI to make planes actively hunt and attack the player, and Simple No Clip allowed players to pass through walls and terrain the same way developers used during testing. Both of the mods were installed by thousands of players who had no reason to suspect that anything about them was wrong. In mid-May 2015, players began to notice some suspicious behavior in Angry Planes and Simple No Clip, involving a background compiler process and files associated with a program called Fade.x. Investigators discovered both mods contained hidden malware capable of compromising players' computers, including code believed to function as a keylogger and credential stealer that could be activated whenever the game was launched. Keylogging means gaining access to any sensitive information someone might type on their infected computer after planting malware. As soon as the installed mods began to run quietly in the background without the owner realizing it at all. Once the information became public, both mods were removed from major distribution sites instantly. Warnings against the mods began spreading across GTA forums and Reddit, and players who had installed them before finding out about the malware were advised to treat their systems as compromised and change their passwords immediately. Because the infected files were unofficially community mods rather than the official Rockstar content, Rockstar remained largely disconnected from the controversy. The incident permanently damaged trust in parts of the GTA modding scene, especially for newer players who no longer knew which uploads could actually be trusted. Even legitimate mod creators were affected, because users began to approach all third-party downloads with suspicion. The Angry Planes and Simple No Clip incident left many players with the realization that installing the wrong GTA mod could quietly give a stranger complete access to their computer, especially in a community that's built around downloading files from people they had never met. Virtual assault mods in GTA Online. On September 17, 2013, Grand Theft Auto V was released and was accompanied by GTA Online on October 1 as a multiplayer component, allowing players to enter shared online lobbies inside Los Santos where they could complete missions together, buy apartments, race, rob stores, fight other players, or simply wander through the city. The PC version quickly developed a reputation for hackers and modders abusing the game's networking systems to interfere with the other players' sessions. Not long after GTA V was released, hackers created mods that allowed players to enter another person's session as a naked or near-naked man to lock movement controls to another player, and then began to thrust persistently back and forth. The attacks became especially common in PS3 and Xbox 360, where modders bypassed security systems and used animation menus classified under naughty stuff to force other players to perform pole dances and sex animations inspired by Franklin's mission Paparazzo, the sex tape. The victim described the scenario as not being able to move or fight back. Meanwhile, the attacker would record the entire encounter, often talking to the victim on a headset during the assault and adding verbal humiliation to the digital violation. The first victims stepped forward in August 2014, posting on Reddit about what had happened to them. One player, using the username LNation21, wrote, "I turned my attention away from him to try and kill the guy who I was originally after when he walks up behind me and starts b***ing my character." The player described the encounter as very creepy and recounted trying to kill themselves, but after responding, the guy was still at it. The only way she was able to get separated was by walking into a job. Another player also posted on Reddit that she was butt-raped online. She explained that he would run up to you, slowly and sensually butt you. Then, when he was done, he would be stuck behind you no matter what. She also added that he could not be killed. The incident happened on PS3, and the player had no way to fight back. By December 2014, these attack methods were still being reported, and YouTube channels came up showing GTA Online videos, normalizing the behavior despite the clear harm being done. The most infamous victim of the GTA Online harassment was streamer Brittany Venti, also known online as its Baby Dash. During a live broadcast, modders invaded Venti's GTA Online session and forced her avatar into sexually explicit animations as thousands watched in real time. The clip spread across YouTube, Discord servers, forums, and GTA modding communities, and the comment sections under those clips were praising and celebrating the attackers, framing the assault as comedy, while ignoring how disturbing the incidents actually were for the victims. As Laura and Donato put it at Viral Global News, players are recording the virtual rape on their computers and uploading it to YouTube, as well as other popular social media networks. Through these videos, it is abundantly clear to see that virtual rape is indeed occurring in the game. Despite the backlash regarding the situation, there was no major public response from Rockstar, and the harassment continued for months, with the clip circulating online as comedy. The incidents became infamous, partly because they exposed how easily GTA Online's chaos could turn into something disturbing once players lost control of their own sessions. However, the next case moves beyond harassment and moves entirely into a territory of graphic violence and real-world imitation. Level 5. Very Dark. The Hot Dog Mission. GTA 2. Grand Theft Auto was released in 1999 and drops players into Anywhere City, a futuristic city controlled by competing gangs where the player takes control of Claude Speed. In the game, the mission is commonly known as Hot Dog Homicide, but it is also called RS Elbows and is given by one of Anywhere City's dominant criminal organizations. The mission begins with Jerkov, a Russian mafia boss, instructing Claude to steal a bus. Jerkov says to him, "Find yourself a bus stop and pick up passengers. I'll let you know when you have enough." Claude drives from stop to stop, picking up passengers by the road, one after the other. When the bus is full, Jerkov commends him, saying, "Excellent, comrade, a bus full of food," and then instructs Claude to drive the packed bus to the Zaibatsu meat processing plant. The bus arrives at the facility, and the passengers start to run for their lives as they realize they are in a meat factory about to be processed into hot dogs, crying out things like, "Please don't take me, I'm all saturated fat," and "Please no, I don't want to be your hot dog." However, they were all gunned down before any of them got the chance to escape. Soon after, Claude collects the finished product, and the game moves to the distribution stage in Kovsky's diner, where it will be sold to customers without dwelling on what had happened inside the facility. The mission concludes with the line, "Eat hearty, comrade." The mission became infamous online once clips and screenshots began circulating years later. It introduced newer GTA players to content many of them hadn't seen before. For players who started with GTA 4 or GTA 5, the idea that an older Grand Theft Auto mission casually revolved around grinding innocent civilians into hot dogs felt like something pulled from a horror game. Some questioned how Rockstar was able to get away with it, and others decided not to play the game due to how cruel the mission seemed. The mission became even more disturbing to some players Once people started comparing it to the real criminal cases like the Karl Denke case in 1920s Germany, Karl Denke pickled the flesh out of at least 30 victims and sold it under false labels at local markets for years before his arrest. He was arrested in 1924 after attacking a man, and investigators later found evidence indicating he had murdered and cannibalized multiple victims, many of whom were vulnerable homeless men or travelers. He died by suicide a day after his arrest. In a franchise already filled with violence and mass murder, Hot Dog Homicide stood out because of how impersonally cruel it felt. The victims are regular civilians who did nothing but board a vehicle, and their killings are industrialized. Zachary Burgess GTA reenactment. Zachary Burgess was a 20-year-old college student and a freshman lacrosse player at Auburn University in Alabama. On the night of September 22, 2013, which was just 5 days after GTA 5 was released on September 17, Burgess stole a pickup truck with a woman in it from a parking lot at around 2:30 a.m. on a Saturday and held the woman against her will. He drove recklessly through the city, allegedly forcing drivers off the road and crashing into multiple vehicles as the police chased him. The woman held in the car, Monique Giarusso, allegedly jumped out of the vehicle before Burgess slammed into a wall.
He wouldn't speak to me, he wouldn't look at me, it was like he was in the zone.
The woman eventually jumped out before Burgess allegedly slammed through this fence and into a wall.
She recounted her experience during the event, saying, "I didn't think I was going to be able to get out because he was just backwards, forwards, doors were locked. He wasn't listening to me. He was ignoring me." Eventually, the police caught up with him, but reports differed on how the chase finally ended. Reports say that Burgess gave up and tried to flee, but witnesses stopped him a short distance away and held him down until the officers arrived.
Urban underworld.
Zachary sees a vehicle running in the parking lot. There's a female passenger inside the car. He then jumps into the car.
According to police reports, Burgess allegedly admitted that he had been playing GTA 5 for long periods before the incident and said he wanted to see what it was like to play Grand Theft Auto in real life. The story blew up instantly because it happened right after the release of Grand Theft Auto 5, one of the biggest entertainment launches ever. So media outlets framed the arrest as a real-world imitation of a popular game. The phrase, "wanted to see what it was really like to play the video game Grand Theft Auto," became the main detail of many news articles. GTA 5 was already dominating headlines worldwide and breaking sales records. Many fans were even flooding social media with gameplay clips almost immediately after launch. So when reports came out about a teenager who had allegedly reenacted the game days later, naturally, the story spread really quickly. Coverage also leaned on the violent video games cause violence angle, which helped the story travel fast. Burgess was charged with simple kidnapping, theft of a motor vehicle, and 9 counts of hit and run. Reports stated that he was released on an $80,000 bond the next day. The case moved through the Alabama legal system, but it never settled the debate surrounding it. People were still arguing over the same question, whether Grand Theft Auto influenced what happened that night, or whether Zachary Burgess simply used the game to explain actions he had already decided to take.
We're seeing cases of kids emulating these games because the games are so realistic. They want the sensation of the real experience in real life.
Rockstar issued no public response to the incident, which was consistent with how the company had handled similar cases.
The maker of Grand Theft Auto, Take-Two Interactive, did not return our request for comment.
Critics saw Rockstar's silence as indifference, while supporters saw it as refusal to entertain claims they believed had no evidence behind them. However, the case gradually faded from the headlines and the game survived the violent controversy. But the Zachary Burgess case became one of the few events in Grand Theft Auto history where a fan tried to cross a line between entertainment and criminal fantasy. GTA Torture Mission. By the Book. By the Book is one of GTA 5's most notorious missions. It is a mission that puts players in control of a torture scene that later became one of the game's biggest controversies. The mission takes place after Michael and Trevor abduct a man named Mr. K, who is suspected of having information connected to a government investigation.
It's okay, I've got some new friends here now.
This is Michael, and this is Trevor.
No.
Now our friend here, he claims he doesn't know anything.
I don't know anything. I don't know, I already told nothing. I don't know anything.
While Michael carries out a sniper operation nearby, Trevor remains inside a warehouse where the player is ordered to torture the captive repeatedly in an attempt to force information out of him.
Turns out that was the wrong Azerbaijani. We need a new address from Mr. K. Choose your instrument and go to work on it. Where do we start, eh, buddy?
Mr. K's full name is Ferdinand Karamov, and he's not a criminal. He installs home theater systems for a living, pays his taxes, and goes home to his family in Morningwood at the end of every working day. And the only reason any of this matters is that none of it protected him from what happened next. The International Affairs Agency, which is GTA 5's equivalent to the CIA, had been watching a client whose apartment Karimov had wired with audiovisual equipment. And the gear looked enough like surveillance infrastructure that the IAA decided Karimov was a jihadist. They held him for 6 weeks after faking his death, and tortured him off-screen before the Federal Investigation Bureau, the game's corrupt FBI equivalent, stepped in to take custody. They did that because the FIB wanted the intelligence value before the IAA could claim it, as the two agencies were competing for the same government funding. Agent Steve Haynes, the FIB's television-friendly face, who cared more about his on-camera reputation than anything happening in the room behind him, delivered Karimov to a warehouse in Banning. He handed him over to Trevor Phillips with a list of questions about a real suspected terrorist named Tahir Javan, someone Karimov barely knew and had only seen once when he went to install a home theater for him.
Mr. Phillips, ask him about Tahir Javan.
What did you ask me? I know Tahir. I did his home theater.
It was at this point that things took a turn for a lot of GTA players. The players no longer shooting enemies during a firefight or destroying gameplay. Instead, they are restrained in a room with a defenseless person while being instructed to hurt him piece by piece.
My teeth are perfect. Let me whiten, please don't.
Best way to make a man talk is to stop him being able to talk.
That hurts too much.
The game gave them the tools and made progress depend on using them. So the wrench, pliers, car battery, and dental drill were part of the gameplay, not just cutscene props. The player is meant to select one of those objects from a table and use it to torture a man who was crying and begging and repeating that he had a wife and children waiting for him. But he genuinely did not know anything worth knowing, and that only made things worse for him. The cardiac monitor ran beside the chair throughout the sequence, spiking with each application of force.
Hasn't this man done enough for national security? Rise and shine!
And dropping during the pauses when Karimov, desperate to make it stop, described whatever details about Tahir Javan he could actually remember. His height, his beard, whether he was left-handed, what brand of cigarettes he smoked, and little observations that the game treated as actionable intelligence.
Afraid of. So, yeah, this guy we're after, what does he look like?
I was built, I was height, middle age.
Yeah, it sounds like you're stalling, this better be enough. Middle age, middle height, middle build, whatever, he's dark, okay? He's Azerbaijani, for God's sakes. Look around, that enough for you?
Chain smokes, and he's left-handed.
What's that?
He chain smokes, and he's left-handed.
Ah, okay.
Of course, Haynes received all the information he got from a tortured man with a satisfied expression of someone watching a process they had designed worked exactly as intended.
Any of these bearded guys at the party smoke cigarettes? Mr. K says he smokes like a pack of 2 a day.
Redwood cigarettes?
Thank you, Mr. K.
Third time's a charm.
During a conversation after the interrogation, Trevor criticizes the effectiveness of torture directly, stating that torture does not produce reliable information, it mainly exists to intimidate and satisfy people in power.
Advocate?
The media and the government would have us believe that torture is some necessary thing. We need it to get information, to assert ourselves. Did we get any information out of you?
I would have told you everything.
Exactly. Torturers or the torturer, or the guy giving the order to you for the good times. We should all admit that. It's useless as a means of getting information.
I'm feeling lightheaded.
The mission sparked immediate backlash in 2013, as cultural critics, gaming journalists, ethicists, and even longtime fans argued that the whole sequence felt unusually cruel compared to the rest of the game. By the book arrived while public debate about the CIA's enhanced interrogation program was still active in 2013. At the time, the Senate Intelligence Committee's investigation into post-9/11 detention and interrogation practices was ongoing, and the specific techniques the game depicted, such as waterboarding, stress positions,
My mom! I was drowned! Oh, say this!
and applying electric shock through battery clamps attached to his nipples.
He's cooked. Quit it. We need him moderately cooked.
Yeah, he went and pissed himself. That's what happens when you put the body through the ringer.
Directly matched methods described in declassified reports, which the government later defended as necessary methods instead of torture. Some players defended the mission, arguing that it is satire aimed at post-9/11 torture practices and government hypocrisy, and that Rockstar was intentionally condemning torture rather than glorifying it, some even comparing it to Zero Dark 30. Karimov's innocence was never in question because the game already established it clearly from the start, and that means the player spent the entire sequence applying force to someone the narrative had already confirmed deserved none of it. Organizations such as Amnesty International, Freedom from Torture, the Teachers Union, and several UK politicians called on Rockstar to remove the sequence from the game. They argued that the game was normalizing disturbing practices that had caused real-world suffering to real innocent people in real facilities. A clear example of the argument is Abdul Wali, an Afghan farmer who died in the US custody in 2003 after voluntarily surrendering to clear his name over suspicion that he was involved in a rocket attack. The local government had instructed him to turn himself in, and he died 3 days later at a US base in Kunar province. However, despite the backlash Rockstar received, they never removed or altered the mission. By the Book remained fully intact across every version of GTA V. Over time, it became remembered as one of the most infamous examples of how far the series was willing to push graphic content inside a mainstream blockbuster game. However, unlike Abdul Wali, Ferdinand Karimov survived the mission. He was released and presumably went home to his family in Morningwood, and the game moved on to the next objective without asking what either experience had cost. The violence and controversy often surrounded Grand Theft Auto had already created years of public outrage, but the next level moves beyond debates about games influencing behavior. Instead, it focuses on a case where one of the people running a trusted GTA roleplay community was eventually exposed for crimes that had nothing to do with fiction at all. Level 6, Deep Dark, Thomas White and the GTA RP pipeline. Grand Theft Auto roleplay communities became massively popular during the 2010s, especially on PC, where modified multiplayer servers allowed players to treat GTA less like an action game and more like a livable online world. Players created characters, developed entire virtual lives, and even built a secret boiler room rave in Los Santos. Many built lives in fictional versions of Los Santos with their own economies and legal systems created by community administrators running private servers. One GTA roleplay community tied to that scene attracted a large number of younger players and built its reputation around structured roleplay and moderation. Like many GTA RP spaces at the time, the server depended heavily on trust between players and administrators, because the people running the community controlled everything from moderation to access permissions and player bans. Behind the community was Thomas White, a 24-year-old dropout of Liverpool John Moores University who became a key administrator of Silk Road 2.0, one of the largest criminal marketplaces in the dark web, which became infamous for anonymous drug trafficking and illegal online trade conducted through Tor and cryptocurrency, which followed the original Silk Road after the FBI shut it down.
For privacy.
Hundreds of thousands of users use the impossible-to-trace website which sells drugs, forged documents, and even hitmen. It's called the Silk Road.
It generated roughly $1.2 billion in sales.
The original Silk Road was a dark web marketplace that the FBI had shut down in 2013 after arresting its founder Ross Ulbricht. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole by Judge Catherine Forrest of Manhattan's U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. Within weeks of that takedown, a successor platform had appeared under the same name, rebuilt by people trying to recreate the original operation. Silk Road 2.0 processed millions of dollars in transactions before the FBI infiltrated it. The FBI eventually infiltrated Silk Road 2.0 using undercover agents working inside the platform before the site was shut down in 2014. And White was among those identified as operating Silk Road 2.0 under the alias STEXO before he was eventually arrested. Thomas White, who operated under the username The Preacher, had become one of the web's central administrators and said he wanted to create a site for pedophiles because there's more money to be made. Prosecutors described him as a guiding mind behind the operation, taking a commission on the anonymous transactions that moved through the platform, with the marketplace processing millions of dollars in illegal drug sales and other illicit goods across its months of operation. When the British authorities arrested White, they found 464 images of explicit child content that he planned to sell, stored alongside evidence of an entirely separate criminal operation that had been running in the background. The explicit child material found on his devices added a dimension to the case that the Silk Road connection alone would not have produced, because it shifted White from the category of cybercriminal operating in an abstract illegal economy to something even more disturbing. In March 2019, White pleaded guilty to drug trafficking, money laundering, and making 464 Category A explicit images of images. He was sentenced to 5 years and 4 months in prison in the UK in April 2019. The National Crime Agency believed White earned the Bitcoin through commissions and profits from his darkest work. Reports say he took a cut from Silk Road and Silk Road 2.0 transactions, and that investigators continued tracing the assets even after his prison sentence. In 2021, British authorities moved to confiscate more than £490 in Bitcoin, with reporting describing it as roughly over $600,000 depending on exchange rates. Many users had interacted with White through roleplay servers and community spaces without realizing the person helping run their gaming environment was hiding a far darker life behind the screen. The case became one of the darkest incidents connected to GTA roleplay communities because it exposed how easily anonymous online spaces could place young users around dangerous people hiding behind usernames. But the final level of the iceberg moves beyond online misconduct entirely into real acts of violence and murder. Grand Theft Auto itself became part of the crime surrounding them. Level 7. The Abyss. The Stephen McCullough murder case. Natalie McNally was 32 years old, 15 weeks pregnant, living in Silverwood Green, Lurgan County, Armagh in Northern Ireland, where she was stabbed to death in her home on December 18, 2022. The case quickly drew national attention in the UK because of both the brutality of the killing and the unusual details that came up during the investigation surrounding Natalie's 36-year-old boyfriend, Stephen McCullough. Stephen McCullough was a YouTuber and gaming content creator with a following built around Grand Theft Auto content, and he maintained a presence within gaming communities through live streams and commentaries. On the night Natalie died, McCullough appeared to be live streaming to his fans, playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City for 6 hours on a Sunday, and everything seemed normal.
Hey, and we're live. Hello, everyone. Yes, so, hello to all on this glorious Sunday evening.
However, investigators discovered that the live stream was not actually live at all, and the GTA footage being broadcast to viewers had been pre-recorded days earlier and set up to broadcast automatically in the night McCullough was allegedly committing a murder at Natalie's home between 8:50 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. ITV News reported that McCullough first contacted Natalie and Bumble in August 2022. They entered a relationship that lasted a little over 4 months, and Natalie was 15 weeks pregnant with his child when she died. Natalie's body was discovered by her brother when he came to check on her after she stopped responding to messages. McCullough was arrested and charged with Natalie McNally's murder, and the case proceeded through the Northern Ireland legal system, with coverage focusing heavily on the livestream alibi as the detail that separated this case from other domestic homicides. During the trial, prosecutors described the broadcast as part of a calculated attempt to create distance between McCullough and the timeline. The prosecutors used his phone records, his searches for bus and train routes, the fake livestream, CCTV footage, and forensic evidence to weaken his alibi and place him near the scene around the time they believed the killing happened. In the CCTV footage, McCullough was seen arriving at Silverwood Green on Sunday at 8:52 p.m., then walking out at 9:30 p.m. As part of the evidence presented during the trial, phone records and messages showed that the relationship between McCullough and Natalie had already been deteriorating in the months leading up to the murder. Prosecutors argued that the evidence placed McCullough in motion that night, as they dismantled the false alibi he had prepared in advance. After the killing, the prosecution said he kept lying to Natalie's family, to her friends, and to police as the investigators were trying to unfold the story he had tried to sell. Based on the reports on ITV News, McCullough later claimed he started the YouTube broadcast around 6 p.m., before spending the evening drinking and looking through old family photographs. He said his memory became blank after taking a bath and that he could not remember the rest of the night. He went further to say he was innocent of Natalie McNally's murder, and that Natalie's ex-boyfriend may be responsible instead. Just 3 months ago, in March 2026, a jury of 6 men and 6 women found McCullough guilty, and he was sentenced to life in prison.
Guilty. Stephen McCullough is convicted of the murder of Natalie McNally. The jury took just 2 hours to deliver their verdict.
According to Alison Morris, one of the jurors in the trial, McCullough showed no emotion when the verdict came in.
Verdict is delivered. He showed very little emotion. In fact, apart from the odd nod of the head, he didn't appear to show any emotion at all, which has been pretty typical for him throughout this.
However, he later stated that when the jury returned a guilty verdict so quickly, he began to wonder whether he could somehow be responsible, despite still being unable to process or explain what happened fully. ITV also disclosed he said he doesn't remember feeling the need for her to die, adding that he would take it all back in a heartbeat if he could. A later hearing was set to decide how long he must serve before parole is even considered, and the prosecutors made sure to push for 27 to 35 years. News outlets reported that McCullough described himself as a monster. Natalie's family said the delay in justice had put them through hell. They spoke outside the court about the relief of finally getting justice. There were emotional scenes in the courtroom, with cheering, applause, hugs, and tears when the guilty verdict finally came in. Natalie's brothers, Declan and Niall McNally, spoke outside Belfast Crown Court after McCullough was found guilty. Declan paid tribute to his sisters, saying, "Having you in our lives was the greatest joy we'll ever have."
As Natalie receives justice today, our hearts go out to all the victims of violence against women and girls. Our hope is that all the victims and families get their day in court and the justice they deserve. Violence against women and girls is the shame of our society, and we must do everything possible to end it. Finally, Natalie, you were an inspirational person. Having you in our lives was the greatest joy we'll ever have. You would have been an amazing mother to baby Dean. We will love you forever, and we hope you can now rest easy.
In an interview with Belfast Live, Declan also said that McCullough is an absolute monster and not a person.
So he's just an absolute monster, and how could anyone do that to not only a person, but to our Natalie, who you couldn't say a bad word about? How could you have any grudges against Natalie to do something like that?
For years now, politicians and news outlets have blamed Grand Theft Auto for the violence and criminal behavior many of its players have exhibited. But the Stephen McCullough case was disturbing for a completely different reason. Grand Theft Auto was not accused of causing the murder this time around. Instead, gameplay footage from the series had allegedly been set up as part of a murder alibi, turning ordinary gaming content into a piece of a real homicide investigation. Oreo Gang case. The Oreo Gang is an online Thai criminal group operating through a modified multiplayer framework for Grand Theft Auto 5, known as the 5M roleplay scene. According to Thai authorities, the group tracked down rival players after disputes that started in 5M roleplay servers. The gang allegedly used 5M roleplay communities to illegally obtain personal information to identify opponents in real life, so they can locate their victims, then assault, or in some cases, kidnap them. The case became public in early 2025 after violent videos linked to the group began circulating online. One of the recordings showed a victim being stripped naked, sprayed with water, and forced to eat grass while members mocked and filmed him. Other reporters described victims being beaten, publicly humiliated, and threatened while the footage was uploaded online as intimidation material directed at rival players. Police investigations identified several alleged members of the group, including people connected to online accounts associated with the Oreo Gang community, while a few suspects turned themselves in before they were caught. Thai cybercrime authorities stated that members admitted the group targeted people they had conflicts with inside the gaming scene, and then carried those disputes into the real world. One suspect claimed that the group could access private databases to gather information on targets, though authorities later stated the data likely came from private sector leaks rather than government systems. As more footage surfaced, more victims reportedly came forward describing similar abuse. Many of them were apparently too afraid to contact the police because the gang was known for retaliation and said to have influential connections. 4 out of the 24 members of the gang who carried out the violent attacks eventually surrendered to the Thai police after the controversy exploded across social media. And national news coverage intensified. Reports stated that some members showed little remorse during questioning, with one of the suspects claiming that the victims deserved the assaults for causing problems within the community. The deeper this iceberg went, the less it became about a video game. What started with hidden mods, strange cults, disturbing missions, and urban legends eventually crossed into real crimes, real victims, real violence, and real people using Grand Theft Auto itself as part of something far darker.